And welcome to another Saturday night RSG with friends, SWGOH Jedi Academy, where we bring a great panel of YouTubers who I will introduce in a second to answer all of your Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes questions. So make sure that in the chat you are typing those questions with the word question so the bot picks it up so we can give your questions to the great panel of people here. And let's start out with the one that you always watch whenever he releases new videos. Mr. Warrior presents. And then we have the one that's been here since the beginning, but sometimes is busy with work, but we're glad to have him back, Mr. Ramon Azab. And then, of course, our new game-changing PvP arena master from Operation Metaverse, my new Ewok love, Miss T Money. I am doing good, and I just realized I major failed on everything. So I'm going to start all over again here because I had you guys muted, which is really God. It is the Christmas time, so I hope everyone will be able to forgive me here because
Mike joined the call too.
So you heard my introduction, so let's say hi again to Warrior.
How's it going? Hello there.
Ramon.
Hey, what's up?
T Money.
Good morning, Finn.
There we go. And, of course, from all the way from jolly old England, Mr. Mike Hunt.
Good afternoon.
And there we go. So now we actually have everyone introduced properly, and you guys should be able to hear them. So I know you're saying that you can't hear them, but bear with me. I realized my mistake before anyone said anything, and I need coffee. Okay, so make sure that you guys do put in question into the chat. We will go around the horn and ask all of your questions to the great panel of people here. And let's go ahead and just get started with a brief discussion about the Grand Arena that is now coming out. And we are seeing a new type of battle here where we are now going to be putting 3 teams on defense instead of our typical 5. It does bring a lot of different strategy, a lot of different ideas into how you can build your overall teams and what you should put on defense and what you should put on offense. So let me start with Miss T Money here. What are your thoughts on 3v3 Grand Arena, and what kind of tips would you give to our fine folks listening out there?
Well, we put out a video last week, and I do firmly believe in the 10 tips for making awesome 3v3 squads. But right now, it's just we're in the unknown, right? And so it's I think a lot of the same principles go for 3v3 as they do 5 versus 5. Don't cheese your defense. People will walk right through you and get extra points, things like that. But there's some additional ones around, placing tanks and what tanks to place on defense versus offense, that sort of thing that I'm sure we'll cover at length today. But I'm still working on my defense. I have an opponent that's quite even to me, and so just really poring over his roster, seeing where his weaknesses are. Doesn't have Imperial troopers, has Zeta Maul, just really planning things out. He's got a really tanky nest. I don't want to give him any free points, no free points for Ewoks, for Imps, for taking down things with nest alone. So really just not letting your opponent get customizing your defense and not letting your opponent get any free points on you. Make him use the meta.
All right. And then how about you, Warrior? Any tips or anything you want to discuss, or just your overall thoughts on 3v3 Grand Arena for the peoples?
I think it'll be interesting. I'm still unsure whether the 3 versus 3 is going to be really easy or really hard. We were talking about this earlier before we started. I don't know if because you only have 3 people to kill, as long as you're taking enough DPS, it'll just be easy to walk through the team and they won't have sufficiency in defense and build, or if it's going to be difficult because you only have 3 and don't have enough firepower to actually take the 3 down that you're going for. I honestly don't know, but interested to see what it looks like when we play and everything. The guy I'm going against is in a top guild. He goes by Revenue. Yeah, and so I looked at his mods, this cool little bot that somebody put in my Discord chat, like, I don't know, month or so ago. It like pairs you up and shows you your comparison, and I've got about 500 speed mods, which is good, or at least I thought it was. He's got 1,000. He doubles me in every category, so he's got me by the mod game, but I have over 20 more Zetas than him, including a Zeta mission and some of the other, like I have, some of the leads that more obscure leads that he doesn't have. So my hope is that I was able to build some unique teams he's either never faced or doesn't know how to handle. So that throws a wrench. And then even though I have a lesser mod game, I'm hoping I can make the right pairs where it's okay that my team goes second and still wins the battle. So that's kind of my goal, is to figure out what's the counter that can totally go second and still win. And I think with 3 versus 3, it's speed mods are going to become slightly less important, because the burst that you get from a 5 versus 5 is far more powerful than I think 3 characters. I mean, think about it. If Bastila goes and primes your Yoda, and then Yoda goes and Revan marks, and like, there's all this stuff you can time out. But with a 3v3, his Yoda's going to bounce a couple times, maybe do a little damage. Okay, I weathered that storm. Now I can move forward. So I don't think there's going to be as many pieces to the puzzle, which is going to make everything less impressive, which means you should be able to weather the storm even if you have a worse roster. At least that's my hope.
All right, so Warrior gave some insight here on the mod stuff. Ramon, what do you think? Do you see any characters maybe coming out of this as being kind of the unsung heroes of 3v3 Grand Arena?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's going to be some characters that are better suited to be in a 3v3 team, or shine more in a 3v3 team than they do in a 5v5 team. But I kind of, like T said, I'm in the same boat here. I think we're kind of in the unknown here, and I think it's a little bit of a different ball game entirely, because you're so used to how the synergy works when you have a tank and you have a leader and you have a support and you have your attackers, and you're just kind of thrust into a situation where, it doesn't make sense to waste a slot on a tank in a 3v3 team, or should you go all offense, or, what leader ability is going to be best suited with the other 2 characters, because in some factions you have multiple different choices. And I think there's definitely going to be some leader abilities specifically that aren't necessarily so often used anymore in the game, because there's just better leader abilities, but you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper into your roster now to kind of find the more obscure leader abilities that are going to get you through certain victories. Because again, just like any other team, when you have a 5v5, there's a counter to it. Any 3v3 team is going to have a counter to it too. So you're going to have to try to find maybe Qui-Gon Jinn leader comes back and has a profound effect in, let's say, some lower end teams. And again, we all know the big players. I mean, of course, having Revan and Traya, obviously the Sith triumvirate is going to be a cool 3v3 team to run, but you're going to have to dig deep in your roster, because it's not going to be just about those 2 teams. They made it so that there's more teams on the board. So now you have to kind of look at the middle of your roster and kind of say to yourself, like, okay, what really works here? And that's really where I think most of the theory crafting is going to come from, But this is where it'd be nice to have a sandbox mode, just like a mess around mode where we could all just kind of jump in and play for fun and see, some testing to see what works. But I guess, we'll kind of figure it out on the fly.
All right, and Mike, Ramon brought up something that I think is a question that I've seen a lot of people ask, and I'm sure it's going to get asked in the chat here in a little bit, but I'll just go ahead and ask you it right now. Revan is going to be kind of one of the characters that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to utilize. Is he better on defense? Is he better on offense? Should you save it if you're facing a overmatched Revan? Do you even have a chance if you're facing a Revan that is a much better modded Revan? What can you do in order to beat it? Because now you're only doing 3 characters instead of 5, so you don't have like the diversity of characters and abilities to use against it. So what are your thoughts on how to utilize Revan as well as the triumvirate with regards to the Grand Arena and 3v3?
Okay, there's some interesting things here. First things first, of course, is that Revan won't operate as well because he's down 2 Jedis, or Old Republic, or combination of both. So he's not actually going to be as fast as you face in Arena, which means that you got your options there with quick Thrawns or even other options. I mean, you know, if you've got a fast enough and viable Django, so many different permutations now. Personally, so far, I've opted to use my Revan as an offensive squad rather than defense. Just because in a 5-man squad, I've come across a couple of Revans. Fortunately, at present, mine is quicker than theirs, and that's held me in good stead. But yeah, I just, you know, with the shinies, I want to see them, and if you put whatever you put in defense, you're not getting to you know, run, have fun with. You just got to hope. You know, you're hoping that it'll be good. Same thing applies with the triumvirate, because effectively Nihilus is going to have a slight nerf because he can only effectively, you know, reduce cooldowns on 3 toons. So it's going to be both squads. Personally, I've held back and used as offense rather than defense. But saying that, I have cheesed a few defense squads and I probably still will. You know, this is the first of these, and yeah, we can theorycraft to a degree. Just as a sideline, I think it would be great if we could actually have a leader tab. I mean, we've got crew, attackers, tanks, blah, blah, blah. We don't have a leader tab. Just to remind us of all the different leads that there are. I mean, what, nearly every bounty hunter has a lead ability. Quite a few of the Jedis do. And yeah, just having a leader tab might be nice just to help to make up squads. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't even started to put
You're running out of time there, Mike.
I know I'm running out of time, and I know there were going to be some panic ones. My biggest hope is that I actually get to utilize a Zeta that I did when Zetas first came out, and that's Phasma. And I'm just thinking that a Phasma lead could suddenly prove to shine. Because with her lead, it brings out multiple attacks, I believe. And sorry, I'm just clicking into my menu to have a quick butcher's at First Order Captain Phasma lead. Whenever an ally attacks, they have a 20% chance to call a random ally to assist. This chance is tripled if the attacking ally is First Order. If the ally has advantage, they regain it for 2 turns. First Order allies gain advantage for 2 turns at the start of each encounter. Can't be critically hit while they have advantage, and gain 20% potency. And then if you slap the part of that was apparently my Zeta in there as well. But yeah, so I'm thinking, stroke hoping, that my Captain Phasma Zeta, along with my First Order TIE Pilot Zeta, might actually prove worthwhile. Yay, only a year after I deployed them. But yes, sneaky stuff like that. Noticed also that a Rex lead with the right sort of squad can prove quite difficult to face. And I've been throwing my Wampa under Rex, like Wampa and Visas or something,
Right.
Under a Rex lead could be a naughty one, and with that, I mean, obviously there you've got the option. Do you want to? That one will go either as a defense or offense. If anything, I think I might prefer and run that as a defense. Although,
all right. So
sorry, just final bit.
Mm-hmm.
The undersized party thing. If my opponent is listening, can you put 3 numpties in, and I'll run Wampa on its own for that award title.
God. Help Mike out. Put crap on defense.
Yeah.
That's what he's asking for.
Yes, please.
All right. So let's go ahead and start getting into these questions. The questions are definitely coming in now. So keep them coming. Again, make sure that you include the word question at the start of the question so I can grab it with the bot. And we can go ahead and start asking the great panel here questions. So we'll start with Miss T Money. Now the first one is not a question, but it's a statement, but I figure I'll let you know anyways. Faye Mock wrote, question, T Money, I have to say you have the sexiest voice of all the female YouTubers that I am subscribed to.
Aww. Well, thank you very much. It's pretty much all I have going for me, so you're welcome.
That is not true, because then other people were like, "There, you have attractive smarts." So that is not true. So the question for you is, as we're describing the 3v3 teams, do you see any leaderless 3v3 teams being viable in Grand Arena?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The world is your oyster in Grand Arena. For one, we can pretend that we know what's going on, but we don't, like I had the opportunity to play in the beta 3v3, and it's going to take a lot of learning. It's going to take a lot of learning. I don't know what the cadence is that they're going to put at us for a 3v3 versus 5v5, but you can imagine how long it's taken you to really get a sense of like those other 5 characters and how they synergize with each other. What Warrior said around, is it going to be easy to just walk all over them? Like I've been with the GK Xeris 5's team. I've been like, come on, just give me Biggs and Wedge and a day. But maybe not. Like it's really hard. It's hard to say what's going to work and what isn't. What was the question again? Sorry.
Are there any leaderless 3v3 teams that you think may work in Grand Arena?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the neatest things that's come up was in our Discord server, whereas if you put anything with Han and Chewie, they're going to get guarded. So you can put Old Ben as lead. I mean, that's a lead, right? But Sunfac, you can put Zelbar, you can put anybody as lead with that team, and they're going to get guarded by those guys. And there's just certain, maybe you want to put, lots of people have the bugs now. You can use one of those guys as lead. You don't want to use Poggle, you don't have room to use 88 lead, which is good with them. But maybe you put Sunfac and Spy, and if that's that's one of your kind of lesser defensive teams or something like that. So yeah, absolutely. I think I'm certainly going to be trying that. It's not the majority of my teams by any means, but maybe 10%, 15%. Yeah. There's lots of room for creativity.
All right. The next question we'll give to Mr. Warrior, and the question is from What Else 73, and the question is, what is the amount of benefit from a defense secondary as a whole number? For example, a plus 20 defense secondary, is that really good? I think, Warrior, you're still on mute if you're responding. Warrior?
Just skip me for right now. I'm busy. Sorry.
No worries. Okay. Mr. Ramon. I'll pose that question to you. So again, the question is, what is the amount of benefit from a defense secondary as a whole number? For example, plus 20 secondary defense, is that really good?
Well, honestly, I think Warrior would probably be better to answer this question, but I think that it's based on armor, right? I mean, defense gives you more armor.
Mm-hmm.
So What's the question again? Like, what's the what,
Like,
what do
how
they want to
good
know?
is the flat stat? Is the question.
How good is the flat stat? I think the flat stat is going to end up being better than the percentage stat. Um, but like for example, like 20 defense. I mean, you'd really have to. Honestly, I'll tell you the truth. Defensive sets and like defensive secondary mods are like the least. I've never really put too much thought into them because I mean, to me, I've always been more of like an offensive or speed or crit damage or crit set, crit chance kind of guy. I know they did recently increase the value of defense when they kind of changed the way they worked the mods. They tried to make defense and crit avoidance and things like that a little bit more valuable. But honestly, I put more value in crit avoidance than I do on defense as a mod set or a mod benefit. So I don't know, and crit avoidance is something I don't use either. But I could see it working. Like we used to theorycraft a team with Grievous because he had that crit avoidance or that anti crit leader ability. Thinking that like you could this is way before this is like way early game. We used to theorycraft a team of like Grievous lead and then putting all like crit avoidance mods on the entire team and just making them like basically unable to crit. Now, I mean, you have teams that literally just offer so much crit immunity that doesn't matter anymore. But just to go back to the question, as far as defense is concerned, I think I'd rather have Warrior answer that question because I think he's better suited to.
Okay. No worries. And I mean, I can speak to this really quick before we move on. The thing about defense that's confusing to a lot of people is that the stat itself doesn't show up on your screen. Offense also doesn't show up, right? But you get all these plus offense stats. But what happens is that the damage that you see, like the physical damage and the special damage, actually increases pretty much by that amount. So you can kind of visualize it. Defense goes to armor and to resistance, and there's actually a diminishing return as you get higher. And that was part of the reason why a while ago I had made like a calculator and all of this, where you can put in the stats and figure out the impact. And it's one of those things where defense is potentially beneficial, but it's more based on the situation more than just trying to get somebody high defense. If you're looking to add defense in order to make a character kind of resistant to damage and just make it so it's not taking a lot of damage, chances are you're not going to accomplish your goal because defense has diminishing returns and the overall effect is kind of minimized. But if you're trying to help your characters survive just that little bit extra in order to basically use their functionality in the most effective way possible. Example, Treya against Revan. If you want to put a defense team in order just to try to minimize some of the damage while you're stacking protection, defense makes sense. Another character would be like Sith Trooper. Sith Trooper has stacking defense, so even though he may not be getting the most effect, essentially you're trying to increase his armor so he's just taking less and less damage and just make him just a general pain in order to kill. So defense is one of those stats where you have to kind of unfortunately calculate it out a little bit to see what the full effect is, because each character gets a different impact to them based on defense, because defense is variable based on what their base defense is to begin with. And since it's not a stat that you can just see on the stat screen, you kind of have to go through and evaluate it kind of separately and see what the impact is. But defense is not a bad stat, but it's more for specific characters more than anything else.
It also depends on how you. I mean, like for example, like if you're going to go defense on a character, I would imagine that you'd probably have to go all defense on a character for it to even make a difference. Kind of like with tenacity and potency. If you're going to just slap like one cross mod on there with tenacity, that's not really going to do you a lot of good. I mean, like you kind of, if you're gonna, like I used to like my thought process behind like tenacity, for example, was like if you're running a tank and you want to give him a ton of tenacity so that he doesn't get detrimental effects that would prevent him from being able to taunt. You want to make sure that he's got at least 90% plus tenacity. Otherwise, it doesn't even make sense to mod for tenacity, right? Like, so I mean, you might as well give him 3 sets of tenacity plus a tenacity cross, so that he's going to be able to resist, let's say, buff immunity or some of the other detrimental effects that can prevent him from getting a taunt. If you're talking about somebody like Kenobi, or I actually went through this with Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. I want mod him all for tenacity, so that he would keep his positive status effects and avoid detrimental effects.
All right. Let's go to Mike for the next question here. And the question is, what do you think about the direction fleet? And this is from member Tauntauns. And it says, question, what do you think about the direction fleet and character arena is headed? I've noticed more timeout 5-minute teams versus Revan and Houndstooth. Should they turn the speed up to 16 times?
Yes. It'll be a blur. You want, hey, play it back at half speed or less, and then you might see. I've asked the questions. Anyone else experiencing weird stuff going on in Fleet for a while, because it seems as though you're almost about to put someone down, and then the game seems to almost kind of like Matrix glitch, and then everything changes and you end up losing, and it's like, or it just dragged out, especially if like me, you end up doing your final battle with, like, I don't know, 3 minutes or less remaining for ships, because there's not that many quick battles now. So I'm convinced that there are some bugs in there that need addressing. In regards to Revan v Revans, when I experience those, what I find is the easiest thing to do, or a remedy as such, is slap it on auto at the start. If you're the quicker Revan, slap it on auto, let them go through a few bits, and then when you see AI starting to make poor choices as far as you're concerned on how you want to play it, or you already established the kill order, just take over and manually control it after a minute or so, and that should, because is it our thought process and our slow fingers, but I don't understand how auto is so much quicker when they're both at 4 times speed.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll speed it up a huge amount. I mean, some of the animations will go quicker, and then if you do put it on auto, it may go a little bit faster. I can tell you what would help me, and then Mike, you can tell me if hopefully I'm not alone in this. Can we please add a way to tab through targets? Even though they tried to make it easier to click on characters, goddamn, sometimes I have to try to press on Nihilus 5 times when I'm trying to turn meter swap with Thrawn, and sometimes I'll still end up hitting Scion or Traya instead of Nihilus. I can't find the exact position where I can target my own Nihilus in order to do something. I really wish there was a way that you could tap through targets. Am I alone in that, Mike?
No, I agree. That would make life very easy. And also, do you get the same thing if you're aiming for a small ship behind a big ship? Because I struggle sometimes to target the one at the far left of the screen.
Is it 1980 calling? That's an old phone.
Hey! Yeah, I disconnected my phone now. Yeah. I have a landline because I call family in India, and it's cheaper to do it through a landline than it is on a mobile. That's why.
I have an office phone here at my house too, so it happens.
Yeah, well, they make fun of me because somehow the phone always rings right when I'm streaming. It's annoying. There was a time actually on the lunch stream where it rang, and I tried to answer it on the stream, and I started out with, "Hi, you're on the air with RSG. Who is this?" And they didn't say anything. So I tried, but yeah, it didn't work. Okay. So let's go to the next question. So we have another semi-question from somebody for you, T-Money, and then I'll give you the real question. So SWGOH asks, question, can we get T-Money in a sexy full body pic?
No.
I'm telling you what I'm doing right now. I'm picturing the head from your live stream on the body of Ewok Scout, and it just makes me happy. You're like my favorite Ewok. All right. So now the real question for you is from Sith Lord 72, and the question is: with C-3PO solo issues, do you think CG will nerf Finn, C-3PO, or change Rhea in Phase 3? Also, if they change Traya, do you think this will affect the Chex Mix team?
I mean, it definitely could. It could affect the raid significantly, actually, if they're increasing her tenacity and Deathmark doesn't land. I'm pretty sure Deathmark has it can be resisted. I know it certainly can be dodged. That's the most annoying thing in the world. But I do hope that they nerf Traya because, okay, let me backpedal a little bit here. They did a great job with Night Sister Zombie rework, did they not? Like, big hand for CG on that. So it would be really great to be able to use Zeta Finn lead without 3PO there, right? 3PO, they meant to be a very versatile character. He can be put on any different squads, like Resistance, Rebels. It's like he's so great. But right now, for me anyway, he's he just needs to be there with Finn in that phase, and probably in a lot of other raid phases because mostly because Finn can't be by himself. Like, Finn's just not. Sorry for those people who have like 150 speed on their Finn, but most of us can't afford to do that, right? And 70% potency. Finn is Poe is quite hard to mod. So what if they make this faction even better for us? So I do have some faith because of the great rework that the Night Sisters brought them back into Arena again, just made them so much stronger. Maybe we can get a rework for Finn out of this that actually makes that team viable, not maybe able to like climb an arena without C-3PO, but maybe viable in territory wars and Grand Arena in a more reliable way, in a way that's not so demanding on mods. So my fingers are crossed that if they do rework Finn, that they'll do a good job on it, and they have all this language within the communication that we will be talking to the community. We will ask your opinion. I was like, really? Okay, sure. So I'm hoping that if they do rework Finn, it'll be great. But if they do, boost Treya's tenacity, P3 is already a big slog, right? It's everything else is just, you just kind of walk through now, but P3 is tough. So that'll set some guilds back, I think, if there's not an alternate team. So last thing I'll say is that maybe they'll just nerf him enough that it's just going to do a normal amount of damage and not be a big loop, and then that's fine too. Maybe it'll be a 3 million score and not a whatever it is 18 million score right now.
I really hope that they don't nerf Finn. That would be really disappointing in my opinion. Because I don't know. I feel like it sucks to see a team or a player kind of like revitalized like Finn a little bit, even though he's been viable. Like T said, I mean, not everybody has 160 speed on Finn and can really run, or like a really fast Poe, and can run, a resistance team with Finn right now. So, the fact that C-3PO really just enhances that team so much really makes it fun that there's another option out there now. So, it would be kind of disappointing to see them, kind of get rid of that. But maybe they can add something that's like specific to the raid that just kind of nerfs it enough to where it's not cheesing the raid. Like she said, maybe they can just add like they have these abilities now where they can, like in quotations, say like in raid, this is that. I hope it doesn't affect Arena in any way.
Yeah, I mean, and they've kind of discussed some of the options, and another one was adding tenacity to Traya in Phase 3, which would then preserve like Arena and all of that, like to what you're saying. So, I think the zombie was a good rework T to what you're saying. So hopefully they come out with a good one for this. Next question for Mr. Ramon from Sith Lord 72. Question: how long do you think CG will continue to nerf characters for Heroic Sith Raid? Don't most guilds who are able to do Heroic Sith Raid have it on farms anyways? At what point will CG give up on this raid?
when they have a new raid. I mean, this will be the end game content until there's new end game content. That's just the way it is. We are way overdue for a level cap increase, and I know nobody wants to talk about it. We all look the other way and just kind of pretend like it's not going to happen, but it's definitely going to happen. It's something that we're all dreading, but I think that with the level cap increase, when it comes, because it's definitely coming, we're going to get to 90 and whatever that is, and it's going to take us like 7 months to do it because it's going to be ridiculous next time. But whenever it happens, the amount of statistical increases you're going to get from going from 85 to 90 is going to make, kind of like the Rancor raid, the Sith raid a lot easier to do, because you're going to get a lot more. Your characters are just going to be a lot better, and the raid won't be tuned for level 90 characters. So at that point, there'll probably also be another raid that they work on, or some other game mode that they add that is the new end game content. And when that is the case, then they'll be less concerned about the Sith raid. As of right now, the Sith raid is the number one source for all the high level rewards. Your mod salvage, the high-end Gear 12 gear, Treya shards, which are still coveted because there's a lot of people out there that still don't have their 7-star Treya. It's where you're getting all the best goodies from right now as far as raids are concerned. So until that's not the case anymore, they'll continue to be very careful and monitor any things that they deem to be exploits or cheesy in order to avoid people spamming the best rewards in the game. And then when those rewards are kind of secondary, kind of like pit raid rewards are now, like, everybody has a million, what are those things called again?
Furnaces?
Yeah, furnaces. Like, everybody has a million furnaces. Who needs a furnace anymore? I remember when I was dying for furnaces. You know what I'm saying? But now the furnaces are literally like a secondary piece of gear, like that you don't really need that much anymore.
I'm short on droid collars and discs now. I have crazy numbers of scanners and furnaces, but droid collars and discs I need more of.
Right, but back in the day, Nubian security scanners and furnaces were all the craze. Yes. So now that they're not, it's not quite as big of a deal anymore. They're not going to care so much if somebody finds like a way to solo the whole pit raid, because that's just been done by multiple different teams now. Now that they get into the heroic AAT raid, people solo that again. They're not going to nerf that. But I think anything that is considered to be like a loop, or just like a manipulation of the mechanics in the game, they're going to nerf that. And I think that'll be across the board for pretty much any raid. If like you're just sitting there and like you find like some way to manipulate the leader, the characters on the screen to where like the raid boss can't move, and you're just able to continue to shoot them, and they're not doing anything, they're going to find a way to fix that. And that's just across the board. But as far as like the Sith raid specifically, again, that's just probably going to be until they have some newer endgame content.
Okay. Next question will be for Mike, and I think it's appropriate considering it's kind of an international, almost travel-like question. Mike, question's from A. Zingy, and the question is, while on a cruise, is Wi-Fi enough to play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes? Most people on a cruise use ship Wi-Fi and use airplane mode on. Do you need to be able to have the game on Wi-Fi and airplane mode off?
I know. I know if you don't, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I mean, I know that I recorded and uploaded a load of gameplay on a ferry. So I would say if it worked on a ferry, then it should be fine on a cruise. But somebody else knows. Take it away.
I think so, yeah. It probably depends on the cruise ship, and it's so expensive, but I definitely played Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes when I was there.
Over 9,000?
9,000?
Yeah. You can. The only thing you have to get used to is waiting forever for that victory screen or the battle complete screen, God, I remember that when I went on the cruise. First off, it's sad that you're like addicted to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes when you're on a cruise. You're still worried about your 600 and your arena and stuff. That aside, once you do all that, you're still waiting for that final screen to be like, yes, it finally posted the damage, because sometimes it does go pretty slow.
No, you need the game so that you distract yourself from realizing that you're eating your own body weight in food at each meal.
That's true. Those cruise buffets are pretty awesome. Okay, next question from Riverboy12. We'll give this one to Miss T Money. And the question is this a good strategy for Grand Arena? If the opponent is fluffy, I put my strength on defense to stop them. And if the opponent is strong, then I'll save my strength on offense to get points.
I think it's a little bit of a different spectrum. If your opponent is fluffy, then you have some opportunity to experiment so that you can, get ahead in the next match that you face. Like, I'm not sure if this team will hold or not. We'll put it in a place where if you have a clear advantage, put it in a place where that person is going to struggle with it. They've already drained some counters. They've come to the back, and so you can really test something. Or put it right up front and see if they have a full roster, if they can get through it. But I don't I have not personally seen yet. Chad is welcome to correct me, but I haven't personally seen anyone win with a weak defense. I think that pretty much every final battle is going to be two strong defenses against each other, and people being able to really manipulate what they have in hand on offense. I think that if you have a strong opponent like my opponent right now, I'm finding those weaknesses so that I'm taking every team. That feeling when you're like, ooh, I can use my Ewoks here. Oh, I can use my Imperial troopers here. You want to take that all away from them. They don't get any of that. So it's like, if I have to hold my Kylo Ren unmasked team in hand because I can't put Barriss in there, and I think that the Ewoks are going to beat them, I'm not sure if the Ewoks are going to beat those three on just, it'll be interesting to see for sure. But, I'm not going to give them. An example last war is that my Bosk was 1 speed. I have my Bosk at 268, and with the speed bonus, my opponent's strong Imperial troopers, their Stark was 1 speed faster than my Bosk. So my Bosk isn't going on the board. I'm not giving them the opportunity to walk over my Bosk, my double Zeta Gear 12 Bosk, no. So I put Django lead instead, so that at least they couldn't use that counter. At least they ran out of that count. At least they couldn't use that counter. So that's the way I think of it. When it's a stronger opponent, you have to go through the roster and look team by team. What do they have that I don't have? And then of what they have, what isn't modded properly that I can overcome. So I can still put my bounty hunter team because their Imperial troopers aren't fast enough. I can still put my Ewoks because their Wicket isn't strong enough to take down my Kylo Ren, that sort of thing.
All right. And Warrior is back now. So Warrior, I'm going to give you kind of back-to-back questions here in order to kind of catch you up with the crew here. So the first question is from member Tauntauns, and he says, what do you think of Kira lead with Mission, Zeta Zalbar, Zeta Vandor Chewie, and L3 on Territory War and Grand Arena defense? I Zeta'd Vandor, but not Mission yet, and was wondering your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a go-to team. So he just literally gave out the I don't think anyone doesn't use that in the top 10 teams with the Kira lead. However, the team's constantly evolving, so there's lots of little tweaks and little things you can do here and there. But yes, Mission's Zeta is highly important. Her damage ramps and gets better and better and better. She gets stacking, damage capability from the lead, but also herself. And so you see her, hitting it first for not, 20k, which you're like, well, that's good, I guess. But then you see it going into the 40s and the 60s, and it's like, oh my God. And she's shooting every time, once each turn, every time Zalbar goes, and since he's taunting and retribution, it's like a double attack, and it's a mess. So mission Zetas of that team is the only Zeta that's absolutely 100% necessary. But if you're going to use the exact combination you have as well, you definitely would want your Zeta on Vandor Chewbacca, like you said you did. So yeah, that's a great solid team.
All right. And then the next question for you, Warriors, from Jason Coonan. And the question is, do you believe it will be just bounty hunters for the original trilogy Falcon, or will it be scoundrels that include young Lando's Falcon?
It could be either. I think it makes the most sense to not have a Millennium Falcon chase a Millennium Falcon. Kind of weird. It's like quantum leap type weirdness. So I don't know if that would make any sense, but I could see them, for the purposes of having 5 ships, go that route. But it does make more sense to have bounty hunters hunting him, because that's his whole story, is he's constantly being hunted down by all the different bounty hunters. So having a ship from the future, or actually from the past, hunt the one from the future, I don't know. Like I said, it's just weird. But not everything makes sense in this game. And if they need that 5th ship, I could see them doing that. They could also do something weird like cargo ships. Hell, have both Millennium Falcons chase the Millennium Falcon. I don't know. It's just weirdness to me, so it just doesn't make sense. And with ships, their whole premise initially when they launched ships was 3v3. That was the whole point, but they went ahead and went against their better judgment and did 5 versus 5. Did not like it. And finally, when they came back around to ships 2.0, they put it back to the way they originally intended, which was 3 versus 3 with reinforcements. And that made them very happy, and I think it wasn't unhealthy for sure, because it allowed for these reinforcement bonuses and stuff, which is really cool. So when you get to the 3v3, now that we're used to this, it would make sense that our events for ships align with what we're used to, the 3v3 type thing, because even special missions and things like that in territory battles are 3v3. So it would make sense for it to be kind of the same line. So if we did that, with bounty hunters, you could do it with 3 ships, and then have no reinforcements. But if you had that 4th for that 1 reinforcement slot, it'd probably make it easier. My guess is the event will be one of those events where if you have Bosk's, Houndstooth, you win, and if you don't, you don't, because they're probably going to build in like health down, healing immunity, buff immunity, and everything's going to land, and everything's going to have 100% potency. And in ships, that's going to be a guarantee, and it's just going to be like 100,000 hits, and your hits are going to be like 20k because they're going to have like increased armor. It's going to be a mess. Everything's going to dodge everything. And the only way you're going to survive this craziness is if you have this like maxed out Houndstooth. So, I would farm them all, but if this is an interest to you, but the Houndstooth's the most important, you're not going to go wrong, because the Houndstooth's like, the best tank in the game, period. So, definitely would be worth it.
All right. Next question will be for Ramon, and the question is from Haku Uchiha 07. And it's, which squad would be best to take out Night Sisters with 3v3 in Grand Arena?
Well, that depends if you're running a Mother Talzin lead or a Asajj Ventress lead. But I think that the best team to take them out, honestly, would probably be, in my opinion, either... right now, probably a Finn lead. Maybe a Finn lead with again, this is not the best team. I think there's lots of teams that can do it. But I think one of the better teams would be a Finn lead with either Poe and Resistance Trooper, or you'd have to have some pretty good speed, or maybe just a Finn lead with C-3PO and Resistance Trooper. But another option, that you could use would be, I think you could run a Traya lead pretty confidently and beat her. But again, I don't think you're looking for like the utmost meta option here. I think you're probably looking for like more of a something you wouldn't necessarily think to use. But it also depends on what components they have to the team there. So if let's say they're running an Asajj Ventress lead or even if they're running a Mother Talzin lead, it depends on if Old Doc is on this team. It depends on what components are on the team, because Night Sisters add so many different variables with each character that they throw on there. Having an Old Doc on there, would make it, a little bit different because, obviously the revive, comes into play. So, I mean, you could also run a Bastila lead with Grandmaster Yoda and Jolie Bindo, and you could probably take out that team too with that. So I mean, there's a lot of different combinations that would work, but obviously the mod situation would also be important. So much like anything in this game, it always comes down to what type of mods you have and how well modded your opponent is. If they have a super fast Night Sister team, it's always going to be a little bit harder.
All right. Next question for Mike, and the question is from Danilo Papayas, and the question is, what do you think of Rex, General Kenobi, and Princess Leia as a defensive team for Grand Arena?
Rex, GK, Leia?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that should work. Should work quite well. You're going to get the proc on the TM, so Leia's going to stealth, and then retribution from Mr. Beardy. Yeah, no, that should work. I've been playing around quite a bit with Rex Missions Alba, just because I can't be asked to keep remodding my mission. So she's geared for raids, so she's geared to just chuck out loads of damage, and turn meat again just brings her into play. But no, that the only issue I have with that is that you're losing the GK Zaris combo. I suppose it depends whether he's got a Zeta on his Barris, but that is just going to be that. I mean, T Money's already mentioned it. The timeout core, which is GK, Zaris, and Fives. That personally, I think that would be where I would go more with that and use Rex somewhere else. But no, it should work.
All right.
It's all going to be down to mods.
Yeah, mods is definitely going to play a big factor in Grand Arena. All right.
Oh, yes.
Next question for T Money from DB. Question, why don't we have ship squads in the game? It would be nice with Grand Arena to set up for offense and defense.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? Like, what's up with that? I don't know what else to say. It's like every time you go, like I have so many different ship squads, and the worst is when you take your ship squad, you're like, oh, I want to try this, and you put in a whole new team, and you're like, okay, it looks great, and you hit battle, and you go in, and you're like, damn, like I meant to bring in Tarkin, and then you like wait 5 minutes, and you're like, okay, and then you just do it. I don't know if everybody else does this, but I always forget to change the capital ship. So I don't know. So yes, I would love to have squads, and I would like when you favorite ships for them to come up in your character screen. And maybe, I don't know, maybe vice versa, but I find it hard to remember to farm the ships. And you have to like go to that other screen. It's a pain in the butt. I wish that I wish you could just see your favorites all on one screen. Jesus me. That's all. Any more complaining I want to do? Let me think about it.
First world SWGOH problems right there.
Yeah. Oh, here's one. I would like to be able to delete mod loadouts very easily. Replace them. Sort mod loadouts by potency speed. Wouldn't that be great? So you'd be like, oh, I need speed, and you can just sort by speed and take your speediest set off of there.
We just
Lots
got mod
of things.
loadouts, and now we want to organize those. Wait, how long did we have to ask for anything related to mod organization, T? Do you know how long it's going to be before we get organization to the mod loadouts?
It's called being a spoiled little brat, Finn, okay? I know you gave me something that I asked for.
That's why you're
now
my favorite
the list is growing.
All right. Next question for Warrior, and this is from Israflex Gaming, and it says, can I get Warrior's take on my 3v3 defense team? The team is Savage lead with Dark Bastila. I put R2 as my third to force them to attack Savage. Savage is gear 12 and 44% defense before Leader and Bastila's unique.
Definitely going to be a difficult team. You won't be able to take in cheese to win because of all of the defense from the leadership. And if Savage is Zeta, he's going to be cleansing Bastila. He didn't say whether Bastila was Zeta, did he?
No, he did not.
Oh, and then the other thing is it 4-star, gear 11? Because your damage is going to come from Bastila, fallen Bastila, really, because R2's burn, while it does a great percentage of damage, is just insignificant in the whole scheme of things. And Savage is really not impressive damage-wise unless you can get someone under health, under 50%. And then you're relying solely on the damage on defense to come from someone who might not have the Zeta, might not have the stars and the gear, and who's actually more of a support character to begin with, and not really an attacker. So while it sounds like a team that would definitely make the opponent waste something semi-decent, like a C or a B squad to beat, I don't know if I see it being a team that you would use again after this particular arena. Try it out and see what it does, and if it just has a 1 by it,
He did post in the chat. It's a 3-star Bastila gear 11 with no Zeta.
Yeah, I just don't see the defensive capability. I see it getting kind of ran over, unfortunately. And the other thing is in 3 versus 3, I feel like for offense, speed's going to be critical, because if you can kind of get the jump and kill someone, then it's 3 versus 2, and you're probably going to win then. If you go last on offense, then you kind of have a problem, which is going to be my problem going against my opponent. Debuffs like stagger are going to become critical. I heard somebody talking about how to kill Night Sisters, and I think if you could, stagger them with an AoE stagger and then follow up with another AoE, and so you're doing this AoE damage, hitting all 3, weathering them down like water on a rock, and you're constantly staggering them and causing them to skip a turn. I think it's going to help give you kind of that edge swing. So I think that like Imperial Troopers surprisingly could probably beat the Night Sisters, especially since Nest will probably not be on those teams because there's just not room. But with that team that you're using, I just think it's I think it's a solid thought, and I think it was a solid idea. I've got some wild, crazy, silly ideas like that myself. Like I have my Gromorian Guard in my favorites right now, and I'm taking Gromorian Guard to gear 12 because he does dots and he does expose. So he's got expose synergy, dot synergy, and when he taunts, he gives himself retribution. Any tank that has retribution and puts dots on basic while taunting, is, I think, solid, and there's so much dot synergy coming back to the world of the game. I think it can't hurt me to have another tank that has that expose and dot synergy. So I'm working on my Gromorian Guard. Plus, when he does his taunt, he gains protection based on his health. So you can just stack the heck out of him on health, which makes him healthier, and he gives himself that additional protection constantly every time he taunts. My guess is someone will buff immunity him and ignore him, and that'll be that. But it's still fun to pull crap out of the closet and play with it, you know?
Does that mean you've geared up your turkey shaman too?
Not yet, but my Tusken shaman and all my Tuskens they're the last faction for me to put my Omegas on. I literally have Omegas to put on the shaman or on the Tuskens, and then I'm done Omegaing everybody.
No way. Crazy.
Yeah. Everybody has their Omegas on every single character. I mean, my Mob Enforcer, Jedi Knight Guardian, they've all got their Omegas. So at this point, it's just a matter of getting the Tuskens. They're my last. And I thought, Tuskens suck, but now there's 3 versus 3. And so now there's an attacker, now there's a healer, now there's a support, and they call assists out the wazoo. And I'm just like, And another team that a lot of people aren't going to think about, but you need to pull out of the closet is the Jawas. I ran into a bounty hunter team that they had a couple people left. They had it had Boba Fett, it had Jango Fett, and it had Bosk. I killed the first 2. I killed their B2 battle droid and whoever else was on the team. It wasn't Dengar. It was like Greedo. So I killed 2, and I had 3 left, and I just didn't have anything left in the tank. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I took in my Jawas, and I was able to stack 8 to 10 thermals on everybody. And when my Jawas were dead, their Jango Fett and Boba Fett were both dead, and their Bosk was down to health only. So while it's not amazing, it took out 2 characters that I was having a really hard time killing and significantly damaged the tank, the last person. I forget that they do, thermals because you don't ever use them, and then you bring them in and you're like, oh my gosh, they're better at thermals than the bounty hunters are. And could you imagine if you just put like the 2 that do major thermal deaths and then throw Zam on there as a lead? I mean, she could just maybe go forever potential. So, I mean, with all the turn meter gain and stuff, and she's a lightning fast character already. So anyway, there's some really interesting comps that are going to come out of this 3 versus 3 that kind of get your brain juices flowing for sure. But some of it will fall flat. We'll see.
I am looking forward to the day, Warrior, that you record your lead with Tusken Raider and Tusken Shaman on defense in Grand Arena. I want to
on offense. It has to be on offense to record it.
Well, no, I want to see just at the end where it has like defenses. I want to see it actually save a couple of times. Because I believe that the Tuskens can hold on defense at least once. Hopefully. Maybe. I need some hope with the Tuskens. Alright. Next question is for Mr. Ramon, and the question is from Shill's Ghost. Do you think they will mix 5-person teams, 3-person teams, and ships teams for one Grand Arena match? Like have a zone for 5-man teams, one zone for 3-man teams, and another zone for ships. So will they put together like kind of everything that they've shown us in one Grand Arena at any point?
Well, I think what he's going with is the theme that they're going to change Grand Arena every week, every time they do it. And, that's definitely a possibility. We don't know yet, right, because we've only seen these 2. So we don't know how they're going to deal with it going forward. It would be a lot more interesting if they constantly shifted it a little bit so that, it was different. I mean, I'm going to take it a step further and say that they may even make sections of Grand Arena. Do you think they'll ever make sections of Grand Arena that are specific to factions or specific to, things like that? Like, let's say you have a Rebel section or a... that would be kind of unfair, I think, for certain people that don't necessarily have a full roster. But they could give special bonuses for certain teams and kind of do things like they did in TW, where they had a month where... Mace Windu and General Grievous were great. I mean, they could do a lot of different things, but could they do something like that? Absolutely. They could definitely make, a combination of 3v3 teams and 5v5 teams. But I think first they're probably going to see how this 3v3 thing plays out, kind of get feedback from people over this particular Grand Arena and see how everybody did. And then they'll probably make adjustments to that, because before we get into mixing 5v5 and 3v3, I think they also need to start to consider maybe creating a 3v3 more based synergies. You know what I'm saying? Because again, there's not really a ton of that right now. I was thinking about the question earlier too about some teams that are great options. I think another one that's kind of under the radar right now is that Cartho Nassi lead with the Old Republic characters. I think that Cartho Nassi lead is actually really good, and I think that with Cartho Nassi, or like a mixture of some. I mean, I don't know who the other two would be. Maybe Mission and Zalbar, maybe Cartho Nassi with Canderous and Zalbar. Or, I mean, I don't know what the best option would be there. Maybe no tank at all. Maybe Canderous and Johani. I don't know, but I think Johani's going to work better with Jedi, to be honest with you. But I think that there's some synergy there with that Old Republic squad and Cartho Nassi lead that could actually be pretty interesting too to think about. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think that just to answer the question, yeah, I think that that's totally a possibility. But we'll have to see how well received the 3v3 is in the first place. I don't think they're going to give up on it. I think this 3v3 is definitely going to be a thing. But I think that basically, if people love it, they may do another 3v3 Grand Arena first, and then kind of see how that goes. But I think that they definitely need to incorporate ships again, because there's just not enough in the game that involves ships right now. And if they were to exclude ships entirely from every Grand Arena, I think they'd be missing out on including this huge game mode that they created and spent all this time on. And again, there's just not a lot of fantastic ship content out there right now, so they definitely need to include it in every way they can. So just eliminating it from Grand Arena altogether, I don't think is the way to go.
All right. So we are back at the top of the order, and we're also a little bit over halfway through the Jedi Academy. So one thing I wanted to bring up again, make sure that you do hit the like on the video. Make sure that you check out everyone on the panel and you subscribe to their channels. You're also seeing the link to the Tiltify campaign. So I did want to take a quick second here to thank Warrior for putting up his Zeta for the charity stream last week. And very nice of everyone to give Warrior his mission Zeta. How has that Zeta been treating you so far, Warrior?
Haven't really had a chance to use it yet. This will be the first opportunity. Well, that's not true. I took it into territory battles just to have crazy fun, and it was fun to watch her hit for 68,000 at the end, because she was just one-shotting fools, so that was cool. But as far as like territory wars, Grand Arena type scheme of things, this will be the first one, and I do have her on defense. And the guy I'm going against that's got like insane mods comparatively actually has like 20 less Zetas over me, so I'm actually beating him on Zetas, and he doesn't have any of the like really important new Zetas. Like he doesn't have missions or Zalbars or any of some of the like in the last 3 months characters, except for C-3PO. He did have C-3PO, but aside from that, so I'm kind of excited because those teams are hard to beat, but when you have the Zeta, they're insane. They truly go to another level. Side note, I told everybody that I was thinking of using Gamorrean Guard. I'm sure a lot of people are like, what the hell is he going to do with Gamorrean? I just want to kick this out there so everybody goes, oh, that's awesome. Darth Vader lead, Canderous Ordo, and Gamorrean Guard. Now, listen, hear me out. Darth Vader, of course, dots go on, stay on. He's not horribly slow. He's super durable, so he's almost like a tank in and of himself, and he's the damage dealer, right? And so you've got this guy that's going to one-shot the three individuals, and the other individuals are just going to end up killing themselves, taking turns, so even if they're fast, it doesn't really matter. Gamorrean Guard's there for two purposes. One, the retribution, the taunt, and he's tanky, but every time he smacks on his basic, he does 2 dots. And Darth Vader needs dots, right, for damage, and the dots just eat away at the individuals, and they're not cleansable. And then, of course, Canderous Ordo does physical damage on his basic, and then if they had protection, he does another attack, and then he attacks a third time potentially and puts tenacity down. So he's doing multiple dots on his basic too. So you've now got 2 supports that are going to do tons of dots. And then what's even cooler is Mandalorian Veteran, which is Canderous Ordo's unique, gives him additional health steal and potency for other Old Republic or scoundrels. And guess what my piggy is? He's a scoundrel. A lot of people don't even know he's a scoundrel. So he's actually going to boost Canderous Ordo in the potency and the health steal, which is important because my Canderous is only 4 stars. So he's going to need that health steal really bad. So anyway, it's just this massive dots team, and if someone brings in a fast team. But I'm actually going to try it on offense first, just to see if the theory is even going to work. But figured I'd kick that out to the community, because I think the community listening would maybe have a little bit of fun with that team as well.
What about Wampa? Wampa's good with dots too.
Yeah, the only thing about Wampa is, so his damage ramps up with the dots, but if you notice, it takes quite a while for it to ramp up for damage. He dazes and all that kind of stuff. But Wampa's one of those guys, I just feel like he's really, really good. Kind of, it's like Rex Wampa +1, and that team works really well on defense. It works really well on offense, and I just hate to break up a happy home. So for that, I didn't want to bring him over. And I wanted to make a purpose for Canderous. He's only 4-star, so I wanted to find how am I going to make him good. Well, he's the weak link in this team because I've got a tank that's tanky and I've got an attacker that's tanky. But I think with all the dots, it should be able to kind of chew through, and he'll probably die. Canderous will probably die, but I just want to try it out. And yes, Wampa would be better than Canderous probably, but I don't know with the amount of dots Canderous can lay down. And Canderous kind of neuters the other side. He puts offense down on the opposing team on an AoE. So that's kind of a big deal too, because when it's 3 versus 3, if you neuter the opponent's 1 damage dealer and they don't bring a cleanser, then you have a lot longer to work with what you have. So the debuffs are going to matter way, way, way more in 3 versus 3 than they did in other ones, because you don't have all the pieces to your puzzle. You've got key pieces to your puzzle. So if they don't have a cleanser, then you can start to use the staggers and the offense downs and the things that were less important in arena or grand territory wars.
All right, and then also thanks to T-Money's counterpart at Operation Metaverse, Mr. Good Old Maurice, who danced his heart out. Let's just be honest. He danced everything off. He had injury afterwards, and he's okay. For everyone that watched and knows what we're discussing, he is okay. And so, but I know T-Money, you loved watching that, and we do want to definitely thank Good Old Maurice for dancing and making that available for all the people to watch. How much did you enjoy watching that, T-Money? Who's on mute? If she's still here.
My bad. Yes, I was just...
You're still in awe over the dancing, I know.
It was so great. I mean, really, every time he hurt himself was just so heartwarming.
Oh my god.
That actually sounded really mean.
Just a little.
No. It was, no, he was such a trooper. Yeah. I was like, really? You're going to do it? I was like, oh. He's like, yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't have the guts to do that. So, yeah, good for him. It was awesome. He was really, you guys have done so much for us. I know that he was very, very, very grateful to be able to help you guys out.
We were definitely appreciative of it. So thank you to Good Old Maurice and Warrior for putting those up for the stream. All right. And you guys can see the current status of where we are as we're progressing to the 15,000 goal there. So we still have a lot of stuff available, so make sure you check that out after the stream as we have more questions to get to. So let's go ahead and jump back into it. And Mike, we have a fun question for you and then a little more of a serious question. So fun question for you from John Davies. Mike, do you like Brussels sprouts with your Christmas dinner? And do you have Yorkshire pudding and pigs in a blanket?
Yeah, I do. I like it with little like bacon gardons or whatever, tiny little bits of bacon in there as well. But yeah, no, Sprouts. Yeah, gotta have Sprouts at Christmas. Pigs in blankets, definite. Yes, we've got them. Apparently, we haven't got too many of them, but we have Sprouts and pigs in blankets. No Yorkies. We're not having. I mean, actually, no. We have Yorkies with most things, but not with turkey and gammon. So,
Like
no
the dog?
Yorkies on Christmas Day.
I know he's saying Yorkies, but he's talking about Yorkshire pudding. It's just a different terminology than
Yorkshire.
what we use here.
Yeah, Yorkshire Bud.
I know you're saying Yorkies,
I
and
thought he
we're
was
thinking
talking about
little
eating
dog. What the
dogs.
hell is Mike doing with the little dog?
Yeah, nah.
I mean, they are yippy.
Oh, you know what? In my youth, I did loads of jobs, and one of them was leaflet distributor. You know, going from door to door, just posting crap through everyone's letterboxes. And one of them nipped me, bit me on the ankle. Yeah, and I couldn't retaliate because the owner, a little old lady, was there. Yeah, and it was also Decepticons is right. Yorkie is also a chocolate bar. Other chocolate bars maybe available.
See, here it's just York. I don't know if it's the same thing because we have the peppermint patty. That's what I was thinking. Okay, so let's get to your serious question before we keep getting derailed on this food talk because I can't talk about food forever. DB, question for you, Mike. When does Cad Bane's ship become viable in Arena? I have 7-star Bosk and wondering when I can change him over running the Geos with Bosk in the front row.
Hang on. So did you say when does Cad Bane become?
Correct.
His
He
ship?
has a
Seven
7-star
Blood.
Boss ship, and he's wondering when he can change them over from running Geos with Bosk in the front row. So he's trying to move away from that, use Cad Bane's ship. When is Cad Bane's ship viable?
Ooh. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I tried. I think mine kind of went in at 4-star, but I already had Cad Bane up to 11. Cad Bane's been one of my kind of favorite characters. I used to run Cad Bane with Zul, or Maul at the time, because there were no Zetas at that point, in Galactic War, because that was the only place that they actually did anything, and the rest of the time they just stood there and died. But I'd overgeared him really, so mine was already at 11, and then it's down to reinforcements, because the reinforcement that Xanadu Blood brings in is that it puts retribution onto every bounty hunter ship, which is very nice. So to answer the question, as long as your Cad Bane, did he say 11 or 12? It's a high Cad Bane, isn't it?
I mean, he didn't give any specific numbers. He's just asking when it's viable. So
Okay, so
let me double check the chat in case he put something. But the question didn't.
You do
have
want a
level
high-geared.
listed.
You do want a high-geared crew member, just to bring in the increments onto the ship. But if you've got the materials to boost it up like that, I don't think at 4-star it will stand too well if you have it in the starting lineup, because that's the other option, unless you've got a super duper starfighter, Gauntlet starfighter.
Okay.
But I would definitely I'd try it out. But just as a caveat to that, what I'm finding is that my Geos are about the only thing that will burn through this Mace timeout fleets. You need RNG, but it does break through. Just need to get defense down on Houndstooth, and then you should be good. Because the way you start that is that they'll be down to 2 ships immediately. Once you go, you pick off one of the adds or one of the additionals to Houndstooth. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Let's get on with the question.
You have sufficiently answered the question, Mike.
Oh, a Gobi Manchurian for an Indian option.
What?
Oh. You never tried Gobi Manchurian? Gobi Manchurian dry. But I'm back to food.
Okay, we're going... Yeah, I know, you're back to the food thing. Okay. Speaking of which, T-Money, we have a question kind of associated with that. And so there's a fun question and then your serious question. So the fun question is, for the panel, from SWGOH, who thinks Finn should take T-Money out on a date?
Me?
So we would start out with some poutine as the appetizer. Then we would go with waffles with maple syrup because I am a breakfast any day, any time of the day person. And then at the end, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but I've had it. It's just called poor man's pudding. What is it called? Pudding cormier or whatever it is. That would be my meal. Would that be acceptable?
I don't know what the poor man's cormier is.
Oh, you haven't had. Okay, we have to get. That's a Canadian thing too. We have to get you poor man's pudding. I'm telling you, that stuff is good.
I was thinking after maple syrup and waffles and poutine, we'd just go right to City Hall.
Hooray! All right, we'll go to the next question then for you, T. From Faymok. My Boba's execute gets resisted 75% of the time in the Sith raid. How should I mod him so he is landing those crit damage, still being effective in Fleet Arena? Currently, I have crit damage and potency mod set, and Boba is gear 12.
Okay, sorry, Fleet Arena?
So he wants to move around mods, but he still wants to be effective in Fleet Arena, is what he's saying. So. Okay,
well, Fleet doesn't matter as long as you have 5 dot mods on, or 6 dot, of course. I actually don't know this. Is it like gold mods are not making a difference? Gold, green, like it's just 5 dot, 6 dot. Is this correct?
They make a little difference in the power, but it doesn't seem to make any difference in like any of the major stats. No.
In the speed or anything. Okay. So move your mods around, not worrying about Fleet too much unless you have 60 mods on your Boba for Fleet, and I think that's probably a little excessive. I don't think that you want to have 60 mods maybe on your capital ship if you're having trouble getting ahead. I refuse to put 60 mods on my Thrawn, and I refuse to put a Zeta on my Thrawn, and I refuse to max out the abilities of my Thrawn ship because I just don't want to put resources into that. And so I've been doing a lot of TIE fighter pilot. I've benched my bugs, and I don't have like a meta fleet. I've been using a lot of TIE fighter pilot. TIE Fighter versus Xanadu Blood is just free turn meter, right? Because all of these AoEs that are really hurting like bugs and stealth ships, then you have your TFP and you just get all this like massive turn meter when the foresight gets removed. And then I've also been using Spy in reinforcements with a maxed ability. So Spy comes out and will put taunt on a character who doesn't have taunt. And it's just more of an emotional support as well, because I don't want to hit the Houndstooth a million times and doing nothing. Like it's just, you're literally banging your head against a brick wall. Spy will put a taunt on one of the other 2 characters, and then you can kill them. And so I've been starting off with TIE Fighter Pilot, the Reaper, and Houndstooth, and then the Foresight on TFP, and then you get to kill a ship right away, and by that time you have like 75% turn meter more than your opposing capital ship. You just got to time it right so your turn meter doesn't max out at the same time that their cap ship max out as. Like you just have to make sure, you have to check speeds before and kind of think about the math on that. But that's how I'm getting ahead of other capital ships. Back to your question. So it's like that. That's just like a workaround with 60 mods.
Well, he did ask that he wanted to make sure it wasn't affecting him in Fleet, so you did cover that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think he thinks that the mod sets are affecting the ships too. That the potency is actually he's not sticking more dots in ships because of the potency sets.
Correct. Yeah, it's just plain old RNG. Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Roland. Yeah, it's plain old RNG for ships. And then, as far as the raid, this is P3 we're talking about.
Let me see if he specified. He just said Sith raid. He didn't specify which one. He just said Boba's executed in the Sith raid. I'm imagining it's either phase 2 or phase 3, but it doesn't say which one.
I'm wondering if it's being resisted versus not critting, because that is painful to me when it doesn't crit. But I don't know what can be resisted there.
I think he's not talking about execute either. I think he's talking about
The AoE?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, for the Sith raid, as soon as you poke the bosses, their tenacity just skyrockets. So you have to, either manage that by taking in characters that aren't doing damage, so that when you want to land your dots, like your speed is all clocked, so that you haven't done any damage to them before your debuffs get a chance to land. An example of that is making sure that Rey goes before R2 in P1 of the Sith raid. So if Rey goes, she can have a chance to put speed down on Darth Nihilus. If she doesn't go first, if R2 goes and burns, then you just have no chance of landing that. So yeah, maybe clarify your question a little bit.
So he is typing in the chat. He's saying it's getting resisted. It's tier 5 Sith raid, and it's not the AoE, it's the execute. Give me a second, because for some reason it's saying that it's buffering. So let me fix it.
How could execute be resisted? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't apply a debuff.
It clears the debuffs, but yeah.
Just before, while he's writing that down, I just want to, this is very important. We have to go back to this. You don't have Zetas on Grand Admiral Thrawn?
I have one. I don't have the lead.
Okay.
Yeah, and I regret putting the other one, because I put it on right when Treya came, and I was like, oh yeah, and it was Grande's fault actually. So I now have a Thrawn in Arena back then, who was just countering and putting speed up on all of my Sith tunes, and then when they got ability block, well, you know how great ability block works on Sith with Treya in the squad. It doesn't. So it was just free speed up for the opposing characters.
You can get by without. Thrawn's not super important anymore like he was, but he's still a top 5 character, top 3 character in this game. So I think that. I get it. I guess if you're talking about chip wise, I understand that but I think that there's definitely still value in putting that Zeta on as unique. I understand the leader was really only for TW. I put it on, but
now it's a lot better again. It was just right during the Sith meta, and I just wished I hadn't had that. And then with the EP meta, I have really poor timing with my Zeta choices. I put the Nihilus Zeta on just as EP and Treya were there, so I'm just giving everybody another debuff to it just wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
Do you guys
just really quick, I think what he may be seeing when he sees the resisted when he uses execute is the healing immunity, not the actual ability itself. So it's not that execute is getting resisted. It's one component, which is adding the healing immunity at the end of it. But that's not the rest of the ability should work. And I don't think you can, unless your potency is ridiculously high. I don't think you're gonna add healing immunity to a raid boss in most cases. Nor is it really going to be super valuable, because most of them don't recover health anyways. So
yeah. I bet you're right, Vin.
So. Let us know if that answers your question, Famak. I'm watching the chat just to make sure, but I think that's probably what you're referring to, which is the healing immunity portion of it. And I also think the stream should be better now, so it should stop buffering. Okay. So with that, next question for Mr. Warrior from SithLore72. And this is something hopefully, Warrior, you can help out with, because a lot of people are kind of worried about this because they're not sure what's going on. So with CG cracking down on cheaters, if I travel home to the East Coast from the West Coast for Christmas and buy a crystal pack in-game, will this flag my account?
No. Your location of where you're purchasing stuff doesn't really make a difference. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking a one-time purchase in another location other than your home, would that be a flag? But no, what people were doing and I just recently learned about this in the last 3 months, was like Americans were buying packs from Brazil. You know what I mean? Like somewhere where it was like the currency was converting way better, and they were able to get like $100 worth of crystals for like $40 American dollar value, and so they were kind of manipulating a currency system to gain a benefit, and Capital Games caught on to that, found a bunch of people doing it, and actually banned them all. So they're now aware of that kind of scam, so to speak, and are aware of people trying to take advantage of the system. I don't think you're going to fall into that at all. I mean, I've bought currency while I was traveling many times, where I was in totally different states, 5 states away, things like that, and it was no big deal. So there's, I don't see it as a problem at all, especially if it's a justifiable thing such as a travel. I mean, this is the deal. If somebody suggests that you're doing something and you give them very quickly a very logical explanation, it instantly dies. But if you're hemming and hawing and have no real legitimate explanation, then you're going to probably be banned. So if you have a legitimate, logical explanation, you're fine.
Well, the purchases are made based on where you live and where your credit card or card that you're using is the address of that card. Like when you have a Google Play account, it's based on where you put your address on Google Play. So if you change your address to say that you live in Brazil, where the prices are cheaper, then that would be manipulating the cost, because then that would change the prices in the store, which would then allow you to buy with your card cheaper packs. But if you're just traveling to, let's say, the United States, your costs are not going to change. You're still going to have the same prices. Like, let's say you live in Canada and your address in Google Play Store is Canada. When you come to the United States, the prices are still going to be in Canadian dollars. It's still going to be the same price structure. You're just going to be physically in a different location, which does nothing to change the cost of the packs. The only thing that changes the cost of the packs is when you change your home address in the Google Play account. Or the Apple account. So when you change your home address to be in one of these countries where the cost of the packs is cheaper, that's the kind of thing that they're looking for to try to crack down on.
Yeah, and then one of the more recent ones too, Warrior, with what they're banning people for, and I think it was through China. A lot of people were paying like $75 and giving their account information to somebody over in China who was basically then adding like $200, $300, $400 worth of like iTunes gift cards and stuff to their account. But it turned out that they were basically like fraudulent, and they were creating those iTunes codes and adding it to people's accounts so they can spend it. And that was also one of the triggers that recently got some like full guilds actually banned. Like you saw a bunch of guilds just suddenly disappear, and it's because of that as well.
Yeah.
So standard purchases shouldn't be.
Crap, so I don't even know about it.
Yeah. I mean, if you purchase anything legitimately, you'll be fine. There were people that were worried afterwards about Costco purchases and Walmart purchases, and I'm like, no, those are legitimate. You get a discount on the codes, but those are all legit ways of buying it. If you're giving your account to somebody else in order to add those things, then maybe you should reconsider doing it. So, okay, next question for Mr. Ramon. From SithLore72, with the possible OG Falcon coming to the game, do you think we will need bounty hunter ships or cargo ships or something else?
I think that Warrior touched on this a little bit earlier. I think that we're going to probably need bounty hunter ships. I think that's basically the chase right now. They're not going to make it something that we already have, because ships, if you already have the ship, I mean, like, for example, if it's any of those ships that came out when ships launched, those ships are pretty much, most people, the majority of the player base that's been playing since then, has all those ships 7 stars, maxed out with whatever abilities. I think that, if anything, it may be bounty hunters, because the majority of the bounty hunter ships are still relatively new in the hard nodes. Like, For example, the IG-2000 and the Xanadu Blood are still ships that a lot of people don't have yet, and people are still farming. The Houndstooth, and they're farming. A lot of these ships that they came, like for example, people still farming Lando's Millennium Falcon. I think if you want to get the Millennium Falcon when it drops, you should stop whatever you're doing if it's really important to you, and start farming this Xanadu Blood and ships like that. I don't know if it's going to be a solid, just you can, let's say you can only, if you can go into the battle with just 3 ships and win, you might have a chance. But I think that, like Warrior said, it's probably going to be very difficult, especially if they're including ships like Slave 1 and things like that to be allowed to be used. And they're probably going to make it so that you can't win it, or it's going to be very, very difficult to win it with just 3 ships. You're probably going to need reinforcements in order to get the Millennium Falcon. So I think that you'll probably have to have bounty hunter ships, and I think that those ships like the Xanadu Blood and the IG-2000 and the Houndstooth should be priority for you right now if you're really aiming to get that ship. But I think that it's going to probably come. It's definitely not going to come anytime before I'd say mid to end of January. So you have probably a few weeks to get ready, but it's going to probably come quick. But they're not going to be around. They typically take a hiatus here till about the mid January range. So you're probably looking at I'd say 2 to 3 weeks time to really get some work in on that. But being that these are all mostly in hard nodes, I think it's going to be kind of difficult to get that accomplished unless you're heavy spending on refreshes and possibly even packs. Now, when they come out, there probably will be packs you can buy. So again, if you're somebody that's maybe thinking about investing to get the Millennium Falcon, I would not make any heavy investments in the game over the next couple of weeks and just kind of save your money to buy some of those packs when they come out to give you a little bit of a boost. I think it'll be somewhat similar to what they did with Revan, where you're able to buy packs and get the characters leveled up. But again, it's one of those things where they definitely did release these ships into hard nodes relatively recently, and they're going to want to make sure that there's some sort of a shard chase there before the when the event comes out, so that people are kind of scurrying about to try to get these ships to 7 stars. So I think that that'll be the deal, and it'll probably be a legendary event for the Millennium Falcon, and it'll probably require bounty hunter ships. That's my opinion.
Okay. And we're coming down the stretch here. We're back at the top of the order with a few questions left. So back to the top with Mike. Mike, question from Jason Krolick. Question, how high a flat offense would make it a god mod? For example, 120 flat offense secondary?
For god mods, no. You'd probably be looking at over 200. Quite a bit over 2. You know what? We just have a butcher's. I know I've seen some god mods. There's one particular player that's discussed. Sorry, I can't reveal who, but his mods are discussed constantly just for the number of speed mods and.
It's okay. We're talking about Loki. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. Really? I don't. Oh, wow. I don't actually have my page open for once. Sorry.
Yeah, while Mike is looking at that, 120 is definitely kind of not. It's not on the high end. You can get to around 180 or so with, or not 180, like 160, 170 with the 4 roll. So when you're looking at god mod, you're looking at the 5, like the parenthesis 5 next to it on a gold mod, and so it'll be higher than 120 for sure, probably higher than like 180. Warrior, how are you? I know you have a lot of. I know you were talking about your mods earlier. What would you consider a god mod for offense?
Any mod on any stat where all rolls go to one stat is a god mod. Listen, if it hits tenacity and you've got a 9.5% tenacity on one freaking mod, that's a god mod. It may not be speed, but who cares? A god mod is when it rolls every single dang time on the same thing. If it hits offense every single time, you're looking at 160 to 200 based on the starting stat. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention is a lot of people are thinking, oh, maybe RNG will help me. So they buy a mod and they roll it, and then they get less than par results. They've clearly stated whatever the starting stat is, that starting stat will be replicated throughout, but more than likely. So if your starting speed is 3, there's a really good chance that you're going to get 3s and 4s throughout. But if it's starting as 6 or 5, you're more likely to get the higher roll on speed. Now, because they said if it starts crap, it's going to end crap. You've got to remember that. So if offense is showing 30, you're probably going to go to 60 and then 90 and then 120. And that's your God mod, but that's sad because it had a starting offense that was low and it rolled low the whole way through. If it starts at 60 and then rolls 60 and 60 and 60, then you're going to get into the 180s, 200s. So just don't waste any money on any mod unless it has a phenomenal starting stat. And if you're unsure, just go to your mods, click on offense, sort by offense, and see what's your highest mod with offense and see what the averages are. I've done videos in the past on averages, but if your mod that you're buying for offense purposes has a 30, then don't waste your money. But if you see one with like a 62 or whatever, then buy that one. It's amazing.
I got onto mine. My best defense mod is it says 15E. It's 6E. It's a 6E offense arrow. So it's 8.5% offense with offense that flat stat that rolled 4 times, and that's at 160. That's my best is 160. So. Oh, nice. Well, that 160 is on my young Han.
I hope so. It's a lot of pressure, right? Like being someone who's chosen to have a YouTube channel and, who talks about her guild all the time and I'm very honest that my guild carries me quite a bit. I'm just very good at finding talent and bringing them to play with us. But yeah, I certainly hope so. I think about it enough that they dang well should. If I don't, it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, so for those that didn't hear what I just said, because I accidentally muted myself, the question was, do you think T-Money will be bathing in the tears of her opponents? So that's what T-Money was responding to. So that was the fun question. Now we have the real question. So the real question for you is from Jason Coonan. Question, T-Money, assuming you do not have Treya or Revan available on offense in Grand Arena, who would be the best counter if your opponent is using Revan on defense?
Well, there's a few. They're still being figured out right now. You need to go into your arena if you can at all and try to, if you're near Revans in there, try and practice 3 versus 3 because it's quite different. Even Revan versus Revan can be troublesome, but CLS is having some luck. There's a number of teams that have had some luck. I don't know about the bounty hunters. I think one of you guys had mentioned that earlier. I'm not sure about that. Definitely CLS, Han, and Chewie. You have to have your team modded for that, right? You have to have so much offense on your Han and Chewie so that they can make a really good go at Grandmaster Yoda on that first round, and then CLS can come in and take him down the rest of the way. It is absolutely 100% okay to let a match time out with somebody dead on a 3-unit Revan team, right? You kill Revan, that's ideal, right? But if you kill Grandmaster Yoda, well, that's second best, in my opinion. If you have like a crazy hard-hitting Grandmaster Yoda who happens to also be fast, well, okay, but he's pretty squishy. So without that Revan lead, without his speed bonuses, without his all of his protection recovery and all the crazy bonuses that he gets on that lead, that's gonna all fall apart in the second match. So if you can just go in there, take one character down, then you can disassemble the rest of it, and that's a totally legit strategy. If we're gutsy in territory wars and we put all of our Revan on defense, knowing that another guild is going to put all their Revan on defense, we have that as a plan. We say, okay, this is what we can do. We can go in, we can take this character down, and then if it's when you place a super strong defense, you might not be able to go and one-shot everybody. You're hopefully going to plan it out so that you can, and you're not losing points for that. But when there's a team like Revan standing in your way, you just need to kill it, by whatever means necessary.
All right. Let's see. Next question is going to be... give me 1 second here. It's going to be for Warrior. So we're back up to Warrior. Question from Captain Blackbeard. Would Stormtrooper Han, Veteran Chewie, and Veteran Han work in Grand Arena? If so, is it better on offense or defense?
So the two vets together and then just regular Han Solo?
Correct.
Stormtrooper Han, I think you said.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Stormtrooper Han.
Yeah.
Stormtrooper Han, Veteran Chewie,
Stormtrooper
Veteran
Han as the lead. If I did that team, it would be a filler team for defense. The cool thing about the vets, and a lot of people don't really give them any credit because they have to farm them for like 9 million years, and then they hate them, so they don't use them for anything, which is funny because if you have to farm someone, you should probably find a use for them, is that they actually do basically every debuff and every non-unique debuff in the game. They've got stagger, they've got stuns, they've got ability blocks, they've got everything. So, and they have like stacking offense and things like that, which is kind of cool. They were one of the first stacking offense style characters put into the game that actually could ramp up, and they support each other in a really cool way. The problem is most people have them modded just poorly because they don't use them. But as a filler defense team, that would be solid. And someone's going to look and go, oh, the vets, those are idiots. Let me just go in there with my, whatever, and I'll just clear it out. And then they're going to be surprised because they're going to be, stunned, ability blocked, stunned, skip turn because of, the... And next thing you know, they're losing someone. They're like, what the hell is going on? These are the vets. So it's just funny because there's a lot of characters not used that 3v3 is going to bring out of the woodworks, and I just find it fun. I think I like 3v3 way better than the 5v5 just because of that purpose. It creates teams that are uniquely different that we've never seen or heard from, and it gives us the freedom to have some fun, right? Like, if I lose 3v3, so what? Like, who cares? It's just a simple game mode, and I'm just having fun. Like, nobody knows what 3v3 is going to be like, because it's never been done. So it's okay if you lose, so that gives you freedom to fail, and that allows for you to be creative and have fun. So if that's a team you're thinking about doing, go for it. You'll fill a filler team, it'll save one of your meta teams for offense, and it very well might surprise your opponent and catch an extra defense.
All right. Then we got another question for Ramon. Questions from Ski Trooper. Question, is there a Threepio team that can climb over the Revan Jolie combos that have 6E mods that are all over my arena? Who needs to be faster than who? Is Ramon still
Yeah,
here?
unmute.
Yeah, he's on mute. Ramon?
Can you guys
Now I
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Okay. Basically, the question is: there a 3PO team that can beat Revan? Is that the question?
Correct. Revan and Jolie would that have like 6E mods? So obviously they have kind of high-end mods is the question.
Well, I think that Team Money and good old Maurice made a video about this the other day about a 3PO team with Finn and Han, and it's a Finn lead with Han, 3PO, Resistance, Trooper, and Chewbacca. Is that the team?
Yeah, so Finn lead, Resistance Trooper, 3PO, Han and Chewie.
Right. So basically, the theory behind it, and we Maurice kind of went through this with us on the Alliance Live show this weekend. We did a practice run. I didn't have Chewie, but the lineup was to have Han basically start off the encounter with an expose, because the rebels expose with 3PO. So that gives the whole team turn meter to start the encounter, so that all the resistance characters are going to go first, right? So basically everybody's getting that turn meter bonus on the initial expose from Han Solo to give turn meter to all the resistance allies. And then you're basically just trying to run the expose train to keep feeding turn meter to the team to kind of keep them from even going in the first place. So and expose obviously also keeps the damage up too. So I think that if you're looking for sort of an option that can give you a real good counter, I think speed on that team is going to be important. I think that modding them for potency is also going to be important, probably even more important. But I think that you're probably looking at a team that can beat, if they don't nerf Finn, due to what's going on. That team should be able to beat a Revan team, and you don't necessarily have to have a Traya squad to do it.
All right. Next question, as we're kind of rounding out the last few questions here. We'll go to Mike for this one. Question from Darth Hideous, and it's a little bit of a trolly question, but that's what we expect from our good buddy Darth Hideous. How many people on the panel have actually seen a starting stat of 6 speed in real life? So have you seen a 6 speed starting? I've seen mine upgrade to 6 speed. I haven't seen a starting 6 speed though.
No, I've had someone tell me that this mod started at 6 speed, like someone who I know and trust, but I've never actually seen one in the store.
Nah.
And I've seen one on Reddit, but yeah.
All right.
When mods first came out, that was actually kind of the standard drop for the first couple of days, and then they went oops, and they nerfed all of mods. And when they nerfed all of mods, the 6th, I think, kind of went away because they wanted it to be a range, so to speak. I'm pretty positive I had a 6 because I had it in my head that 6 was starting because that was the highest I had personally seen on my account. And then I got in arguments with people. They're like, there's no way, it's 5. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's 6. But I couldn't prove it because by this time now I had none that I had at the starting rate. But then I found half a dozen pictures of other people that had starting 6 speeds, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's right, that's what I thought. And I also confirmed it with the devs too, but it's just not a thing anymore. You're probably never going to see that again.
All right. Next question, T Money. Question from What Else 73. Will good old Marie still be able to have kids after that event? Or is that what the doctors are working to fix now? What a great guy.
I don't. You're gonna have to ask him about those delicate details.
We will have to find good old Maurice and question him about that.
Yeah, about his delicate details.
All right. Next question for Warrior from DB. What is the Mace timeout fleet team?
Well, there's a bunch of different, variants, but the team that I use, of course, is Mace Windu's capital ship, and then There's a couple variants for the first three. It depends if you're doing a mirror match or not, because if you do a mirror match with the front three the same, you will time out against them on offense and punch your head through a wall. Super irritating. So I'll tell you the two starting lineups. The first starting lineup is Houndstooth, Gar Saxon's, ship, and then Fives. If you're facing that and you're using Mace's ship, then what you'd probably want to do is pull Fives out or pull the Gar Saxon's ship out and use TIE Advanced in the front. And the reason why TIE Advanced in the front instead of like Gar Saxon's ship works so well against a mirror match is you start laying target locks down. And when you get to lay target locks down, you get to spread it faster than the opponent. And then when you start spamming your AoE, you get to your ultimate faster than they get to their ultimate, which gives you an advantage. Plus, having actual damage in the front three, once you start calling reinforcements, starts to compound, and you start to do heavier damage faster. So if you're going against a mirror match, TIE Advanced in the front three is what I found to really help me chew through them in like 3.5 minutes. But otherwise, if I'm just leaving it on defense for myself, I use, Gar Saxon's ship with Mace and Fives. And then, of course, your backup lineup, there's a bunch of arguments as to what could be used, but what I personally use is 4 attackers. And the reason is the front three are all like basically tanks. Houndstooth, Five, and they all can tank because of Mace's ship. And once you hit Mace's ultimate, and by the way, I hit Mace's ultimate at least twice, minimum, sometimes 3 times, before any other capital ship hits their ultimate once. So you get protection, ridiculous amounts of protection and retribution with Mace's ship. And so the ultimate from Tarkin is worthless. It doesn't do anything. I have weathered that and haven't even lost a ship. So the only ultimate that works now against me is, of course, the Chimera, but it only kills my Houndstooth. That's it. It's just like, boop, I'll lose 1 ship, and then everything else. So on full auto, I lose maybe 1 ship in a 3.5 minute battle, 4-minute battle. So, but I do 4 attackers, and I vary it. I've done a lot of different combos. But the first one I do is Phantom 2, and it's programmed to come out first anyway. It's on highest on the priority list. And I do all attackers because this is why. When you have attackers and tanks and everything else supports, the computer decides, does he need a tank? If so, let's bring Boba Fett out. Well, it's like, I don't want Boba Fett to come out. That's why I stuck him in slot 3. Well, you don't get a choice in the matter. But if you pick attackers, then it's a matter of which one has a higher priority over the other. You just have to know the attacker priority list. Well, Phantom 2 is the highest on the list. Of all the ones I use, TIE Advanced is second. And then Lando's Millennium Falcon is actually one of the lowest on the totem pole, which is important because I use it in the 4th slot. And so it's important it's on the bottom. And then, of course, I use the ETA-2. So I have the Phantom 2 coming out to rush the field and try and put, damage up on everybody on my side and add target lock to my synergistic team, which is important. TIE Advanced comes out, adds more damage and target lock to my target lock synergistic team. And if they happen to kill somebody, maybe they kill Phantom 2 because they dispel my Houndstooth and target my attacker. Then Anakin's ETA comes out, adds expose, buff immunity and all of that. And then at last, Lando's Millennium Falcon comes out. He's like a little mini, chaos. He does four abilities at once. So he can do special, basics, or special because of the cooldowns. And you can just destroy another ship with that pretty easily. So every once in a while, RNG will, things won't land, target locks won't land, things like that. Your damage doesn't crit, and so it can kind of go south. But it's almost never. And so I would suggest 4 attackers, since the front 3 are all just basically solid defensive ships.
All right. And last question now, and we'll go around the horn here really quick. We'll start with Ramon. Question for the panel from SWGOH. Everyone list 1 oddball team for 3v3 that they think would work well on defense. So we'll start with you, Ramon.
Before we go there, I just wanted to mention, by the way, how stoked is everybody that Bronzium packs are now on the left side of the screen instead of on the right side of the
Can I still say that I get into the habit? I haven't clicked on the Chromium, but I am one of the people that was like, oh, okay, I have to open my Bronzium. And I do it right in the morning because my first shipment changes at like 6 a.m., right? So I'm doing everything before that because I like wake up around 5:30. So I'm like half awake, and I scroll all the way to the end, and I'm like, wait, there's no Bronzium over here. And I have to scroll all the way back in order to get to the Bronzium. I'm really happy now that I'm getting used to it, but at the beginning I was like, I actually have to scroll twice as much the first few days.
I think that it's something that was needed a long time. I know the reason behind it. I mean, obviously they want to make you scroll through all the pack options that you have to buy first before you get to the free pack. But it's I think it's a good quality of life improvement for sure. Mm-hmm. But as far as you're saying, a 3v3 team, I think that a really interesting one. Yeah, I'm gonna say Karth, Mission, and Zalbar with Zetas on Mission and Zalbar. I think that's a good team.
Okay. Mike, how about you?
Well, after earlier, I'm seriously considering running a Mr. Mustachio. So that's older Lando with the blue cape, lead with the Viagra brothers.
Okay. Miss T Money?
Well, I think that Zalbar is going to be one of the superstars of Grand Arena, and I don't have Mission yet. She will come, but my Zalbar's at Gear 10, and I have him with Django and Zam right now. Oh, sorry, no, Django and Boba. So yeah, so Zalbar taunting whenever either of those two get to half health, I think is going to be fun.
All right. Warrior, your oddball 3v3 defense team?
I think it would be fun just to throw Chief Nebit as the lead, and then Jawa Scavenger and Jawa Engineer, with Jawa Engineer throwing constant thermal debts and Jawa Scavenger adding them 50% of the time. I think people would go, oh, that's just a stupid filler team, and then all of a sudden they'll lose one or two characters due to debts, and they're like, what the heck just happened? How did that happen? And of course you've got a tank in there, you've got a healer in there, you've got multiple damage dealers in there, you've got stealthing capabilities to kind of protect certain characters in there. So I think you'd want Jawa, the regular OG Jawa, in there for damage, but I just think the Scavenger, Engineer, and Nevit would be just a better trio. But that would be a fun filler team for anyone that happens to have them.
All right. And then I don't know how much you'd consider it an oddball, but the team that I'm putting is Savage lead with Night Sister Zombie and Night Sister Acolyte. That's going to be one of my defense teams. That's a little...
Cool. That's definitely an oddball.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I'm thinking, like, who are you going to attack? Like, are you going to attack Savage, who's going to keep on stacking stuff? Are you going to attack Zombie, who's going to keep on rezzing because Acolyte is going to be stealth? So, seems like it might be a fun team if you don't go against it correctly. So, that was my oddball team. All right. So, that is it for questions. So, let's go ahead and go around the corn here and let everyone kind of pimp their stuff. We'll start with Mr. Warrior, because I know he typically has to go to work around now. So, Warrior, go ahead and pimp away.
Well, as always, you can find me on YouTube. I have two channels, Warrior Presents as well as Warrior's Roster Reviews. They're linked together, so you can find them. I hadn't done a roster review in over a month due to all the personal stuff going on in my life, but I am back to normal. I put out a couple of videos on my main channel, and I've done 4 roster reviews this week. They're all hidden unless you know how to find them, but I do have one that I made public yesterday. And then, of course, I'm going to be back on track now for both channels, doing regular weekly uploads and stuff. If you see the Oddball video for other games. Don't freak out. I'm not giving up on Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. I'll be doing Star Wars for years to come. But I'm diversifying and changing and doing other games. Most of the other games will be 1 or 2 videos max, but there may be 1 or 2 games that you find me enjoying more. I'm going to try to diversify like RSG has. So yeah, I'm not going to probably play D&D on my channel, but I'll definitely have fun. And then of course you can find me on Twitter. I chat there occasionally, and then on the normalized social group on Facebook called Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. There's over 50,000 people on there, and it's a pretty lively group. And then occasionally I make my way to Reddit, but not as often as the Facebook group. So see you out there.
All right. And then we have Miss T Money from Operation Metaverse.
Yes, yeah, we good old Maurice and the Dancing King and I have a channel called Operation Metaverse, and we stream Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Put out videos. Try and do a video once a week. We have one right now. Top 10. Not top 10, it's like 10 things you should know for Grand Arena. That's really popular. Last night it was, in a day it got 6,000 views. I think that's one of our top viewed in a day. And yeah, we started a workshop series for our patrons, and I'm doing that in a few hours. One called Keystone Characters, which is basically how to pile your mods on one character within a team so that it drives your whole team, and you don't waste mods on characters that don't need them.
All right. She is my favorite Canadian poutine-eating Ewok, so let it be known. All right. Then we have Mr. Ramon Azab from the Alliance. Ramon?
What's going on? Yeah, so you can catch me on my YouTube channel at Ramon Azab, and you'll see us tomorrow live, midnight Eastern time. Me and good old Maurice from Operation Metaverse as well, and we'll be doing our weekly Alliance live show, doing some testing of some different things. We'll go over top 5 like we usually do, and I have videos to come. I'm also considering. I'm not considering. I'm going to be just like Warrior said, kind of diversifying and playing some other games as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. I have a Power Rangers video coming out pretty soon. I know Nice. T-Money is super excited about this. Yeah, so
I am. I love hearing you talk about your Power Rangers game.
It's happening, and I think you guys, if you guys like Street Fighter style, like one-on-one live PvP games, you'll like this one. So definitely, stay tuned for that. But I thank you for having me.
Of course. You're always welcome here. And then you're also working on a series with Ranger too, right, Ramon?
Yeah. So, I have 2 reviews in the bank already. And when Ranger comes back from the holidays, we'll be putting out another one. I'd like to do an actual... I know the character just came out, but I'd like to do a review of C-3PO. So we'll be covering him and some different compositions you could put together with C-3PO. But definitely have 2 reviews, one for Amlin Holdo, and that should be coming here in the next couple days.
Very cool. And then last but not least, the one that joins us on the lunch stream all the time, and you hear him with Sweary Daughter in the background running him off the phone, Mr. Mike Hunt and his turn signal.
Hello. I've got a YouTube channel, Mike Hunt, SWGOH. I've not been too active. Still haven't established. We haven't worked out who the criminal was that brought the bug in. But the bug is into week 4 now. We think it keeps mutating. But that has kind of slowed down my output, which normally is ridiculous. But I've got stuff coming out. Playing around quite a bit with Aura. I'm loving that Aura Sing lead. I just need to get the right comp going on that. Pop on by, say hello, and thank you for having me.
Of course.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas and
Merry
happy holidays
Christmas.
to everyone here as well. So, and so you guys are on the Reality Skewed Gamers channel. If you look in the description of the YouTube video, you will see a link to everyone that's here and those that are unfortunately not able to join because of the holidays, like Jedi Master Adastra, who's also West Coast, so it's definitely early for her, plus the holidays, so why wake up early for the holidays? So, make sure that you do subscribe to all of the channels. Please make sure that you give a like and a subscribe to our channel as well as this video. Hit the little bell so you can get notifications about whenever we go live. This is Jedi Academy, which is every Saturday at 10 a.m. Well, I should say most Saturdays at 10 a.m. We'll have to see based on holiday schedules, obviously. Sometimes it will or will not, so make sure that you are subscribed with the bell so you get notified if we do go live. We also do our weekly Wednesday night Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes live stream, which is now approaching episode, I think, 130. So it's 130 straight weeks that we have been doing that. We will have that next week on December 26th, where we will go through the news and notes and give you the RSG opinions on all the different things that are happening across the community. Probably going to be a little bit of a quiet week, considering most of the things will be, most of the devs and everything will be on break. So we'll just have a fun time with everyone that's able to come out. So that'll be next Wednesday. We do the lunch hour from 12 to 1 on weekdays, Monday through Fridays. On working days, so Monday, Tuesday next week, we will not have the lunch stream. We'll have to see about Wednesday through Friday. I think we will have it those days. So you guys can join us for that. Just a few things that are coming down the pipe here. We are also working on getting more other game streams, just kind of as like everyone has mentioned. We've been doing Heroes of the Storm more frequently, and we're going to try to make it more consistent on a Saturday night basis. So be on the lookout for that, although this week is the holiday weekend, so it probably won't start this weekend. We're doing Heroes of the Storm. We do Dungeons and Dragons on Sunday as well. And I'm also going to be working a lot on the website over the break. So our website, which is realityskewedgamers.com, is also going to be updated at the new year. So hopefully you guys will like all the new kind of updates and everything that are going to happen there. And make sure that you do hop on the RSG Discord. It's a pretty lively Discord when people are awake. When it does get quiet when people are sleeping. So make sure you do join the RSG Discord, which you can find a link in the description, or go to realityskewedgamers.com/Discord and you will get there. So, with that, I want to once again thank our great panel of guests, Miss T Money, Mr. Warrior from Warrior Presents, Ramon Azab, and Mike Hunt. Thank you all for joining for Jedi Academy. Everyone have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, and make sure that you guys spend time with your friends and family and enjoy this, hopefully, a nice time off for everyone.